Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome here. I'm sure there's going to be another group of people showing up in about an hour from now. Well, this is wonderful. It's spring, hey? We sprung ahead, but it still feels like winter out there. We're going to begin. It's a bit of a special morning. We have a really special guest speaker. Cheryl Bear is here, and she's going to open things off with a prayer in just a moment. But we're going to begin with our community prayer. This is a really important prayer to us. This really grounds us as we gather each time. And it sort of just reminds us of a posture that we have when we come into this place. So if you know it, say it along with me. And if you don't, you can just sort of like observe it with us. May the God who is community be with us as we seek to be a community. May God bless our dreams, and may God shatter our dreams. May God help us to be real and to find depth in weakness and brokenness. May God help us to face and grow through conflict rather than pretend by being nice. May we look at each other through the soft eyes of respect and compassion rather than the hard eyes of criticism and condemnation. May God help us to let go of control and the need to fix one another. May God help us discover we are needy in our own souls and give attention to our own hearts. May God shape us to be his people until we resemble Christ, who is full of mercy toward the wicked and the ungrateful. Amen. Amen. All right. Well, Cheryl, would you come on up and open us up in some prayer before we worship together? Thank you. Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, you can use that if you'd like.
Yes, thank you, Pastor
Yeah.
Bill. Soon Cheryl Bear Nadleh Whut'en First Nation. I'm just going to sing a prayer song. Can you please stand? It's one of our traditions to stand during the prayer song. Thank you. And this song has no translatable words, but it represents the deepest cry of our heart. So whatever is on your heart, put it on this song, and we'll ask that the Creator takes this. Here's our prayers.
Cheryl's going to be sharing more with us a little bit later. Thanks so much, Cheryl, for that. It was beautiful. Well, welcome, everybody. Welcome if you're a visitor. We're going to have a time of worship together now, singing together. And then Cheryl will share with us as well. So if you want to stay standing, that would be great. Or lay on the floor, or whatever you feel comfortable doing. Just don't annoy everyone else around you. That's the kind of main rule that we have. So here we go. Gathering here together in Jesus' name, we have a gospel to proclaim. Sin and death are conquered, Jesus reigns. Now every fight can be lift our voice to worship you and I will find my strength in the shadow of your wing. Your love, oh Lord, reaches to the heavens, and your faithfulness stretches to the sky. Thank you, Lord. Father, we thank you for your great love for us. We thank you for your faithfulness to us, Lord. There's been times in our lives when we've been incredibly perplexed and even doubted whether you're a good God, whether you are faithful. But Lord, you have shown yourself to be faithful. You've shown yourself to be merciful. You've shown yourself to be loving, Lord. And it's that we cling to, the knowledge of you, the experience of you, Lord. It's not just words, but it's actually reality. You back up your words with your actual presence and your tangible ways that you help us and are with us, walking through even the valley of the shadow of death. We will fear no evil because you're with us, Lord. Just help us, Lord. Help us to connect with you this morning. Put our hope in you and put our faith in you and our trust in you. Lord, we come before you with only one desire. That we might know you and the fullness of your grace. Our hearts burn within us with every word you say. Every word you say, every word you say, your word is like a fire, your word is like a fire, a purifying fire. Lord, we come before you, with only one desire. That we might know you and the fullness of your grace. Our hearts burn within us with every word you say. Every word you say, every word you say, Lord, we trust that you will lead us to your secret place on high. There we know that you will teach us and cleanse our hearts with your holy fire. Lord, we come before you, the only one desire. We might know you and the fullness of your grace. every word you say, every word you say. The men sing this. Your word is like a fire. The ladies sing, a purifying fire. Ready? Your word is like a fire, a purifying fire, purifying fire. Your word is like a fire, your word is like a fire, a purifying fire, purifying fire. Your word is like a fire, purifying fire, purifying fire. Oh, your word is like a fire, word is like a fire, purifying fire. Purify our hearts, Lord. We can't live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of God. His word is bread for us. Come, all you are thirsty, and he'll give you water. Come, all you who are hungry, and he'll give you bread. His word will not return void, but it will accomplish everything that he sent it to do. Yeah, your word is like a fire, a purifying fire. Your word is like a fire, purifying fire. Thank you, Lord. Just put your focus on the Lord. It's easy to think, what's going to happen next? It's you that's going to happen next. You and the Lord, that's what's going to happen next. Thank you, Lord. Speak to us, Lord. Your word and your mercy never fails me. All my days I've been held in your arms. From the moment that I wake up till I lay my head, I will sing of the goodness of God. And all my life you have been faithful. Sing to the Lord. All my life you have been so good. With every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God. Beautiful. I love your voice, Lord. You have led me through the fire, darkest night. You're close like no other. I've known you as a father, I've known you as a friend. I have lived in the goodness of God all my life. And all my life you have Just thank him yourself in different ways that he's been good to you. His faithfulness to you over the years. His provision for us. His comfort in times of need. The rock that he is when there's a storm all around us. Sing it to the Lord. I once was blind, but now I'm found. I was blind, but now I see. Sing it together. This is the Metro Choir. You ready? Oh, me. Beautiful. Not bad singers either. Good. Beautiful. Why don't you take your seats? It's just so good, isn't it, to worship God. I think in these times that we're in right now, it's so important just to draw away and, just really get close to the Lord, because there's so much turmoil all around us, and it's just good to be focused on Jesus. It always is, but especially in troubled times. Beautiful. Thanks for all entering in and being part of that together. It's just so encouraging to hear everyone singing together and hear our voices and be encouraged with one another. I used to live in Vancouver, and I heard of a church in Vancouver. It was called the Street Church, and it was on what is described as the poorest, what do they call those codes at the end of your address? The postal address, the poorest postal address in all of Canada, it's described as. It's on Main and Hastings. And if you've ever been down there, it is incredibly troubling and desperate, really, down there. It really is. I just thought of something that I'd like to just, if I can find it. But while I was down there in Vancouver, I often used to go down to the street church there on my days off, and it would actually ground me again to be down there and just realize how lucky I am and how fortunate I am when I would be down there. And I became friends with Randy and Cheryl Bear, who's going to be speaking with us today, through those times. And That's how I kind of met Cheryl originally. While I was down there, I want to just read this because it kind of frames a little bit of who Cheryl is, I believe. This is a poem that I wrote about being on Hastings Street. Pouring down rain again in downtown Vancouver. I walked down Homer and past this B-movie set with smashed up cars strewn on the streets, through rubble and smoke and apocalyptic zombies at 8:30 in the morning. It was surreal. But it only went to prepare me for the A-movie set on Hastings, where few expensive cameras document the twilight existence of the walking dead, soaking in the doorways and emerging from the filth of their discarded humanity. Some mother's little darling, some pimp's shag, some story untold, artists each one creating theology as they live before the Creator who dwells among them. And every 20 yards another needle, thousands of dreams running through the veins distorted by addiction. Walking and getting wetter as I journeyed to who knows where, and feeling the dampness lining my lungs and the impending fear of bronchitis or pneumonia. Poverty reeks. Eating a granola bar that I should have given away, but it seemed so pathetic to offer so little in the face of so much need. Mentally ill people hunched over carts, bare feet in the rain, walking from a night of sleeping beside a dumpster or on a tiny drier space between the puddles. Is this what it's like to walk on water? Umbrellas dodging each other like black bats, with, I assume, people hanging onto them beneath, all intent on getting somewhere, while not noticing their siblings from other mothers lying on the street as we splashed them, rushing by. Banks and brothels, chic cafes and soup kitchens, music stores and panhandlers, talent agents and pole dance country bars, crazy contrasts everywhere. Buses clad with billboards selling shit that none of us actually need, and us roaring by, buses roaring by and nearly killing us. I saw the ghosts of some of my sisters, and they were exorcised by love and hope. Yet many demons still found new homes, and they brought 10 more worse than themselves to torment yet another desperate working girl. How does anybody use the most vulnerable? Really soaked now. After half an hour in the heavy penetrating rain, I removed some clothes and I stood shivering on the stark bare tile floor of a doss house with the drunk and the tormented. People were washing the feet of the lowly in an old sanctuary amidst the squalor of the poorest and most rejected. And this bouquet of kindness was the first thing that made any sense to me that day. I felt to read that because that's how I met Cheryl first, when she and her husband, Randy, were working for many, many years. She would tell you how many years, but many, many years in that place. Cheryl was an incredibly educated woman, a doctor, for goodness sake, and yet she's chosen to spend her life with the most vulnerable people. And I absolutely, well, as a family, she is one of us. Her kids are my kids, and our kids are her kids. That's how close we are. And I'm so thrilled that Cheryl can be with us today to speak. Goodness knows what she's going to talk about, because she just prattles on more than I do, which is quite something. But Cheryl, why don't you come up, my dear? Because let's give Cheryl a big hand here. She's a lovely lady. So Yeah, this is Cheryl, and she is very special to us, and she's going to share. Before you do that, we have something for you, if that's all right.
Food?
It's not money. Food. A little gift that we'd like to present to you from Metro, just to say thanks for coming. It's a little blanket and a hoodie. Yeah, so. All right. So bless you. So let's just pray for Cheryl as she comes. She's a special one, and I don't know what you're going to share today, but I'm sure it's going to be good. Most of it, anyway.
Shorter than yours.
Yeah, exactly. Let's just pray. So, Father, let's just pray together. Bless this beautiful lady. Thank you for her family. Bless them. Bless Paul today, especially. Keep him safe. And I just ask that you'd anoint her and bless her to speak with us with a real heart today from her experience of life. And we just welcome her in Jesus' name. Amen. Yeah, bless you.
Thank you.
Give her a big hand, Cheryl. Cheryl Bear.
I hope this wasn't your water, but I don't care. That's my new thing. I'm always like, last night I said we were during the concert. How many of you were here last night, by the way? Oh, quite a few. Okay, so I kind of tell some new stuff. Anyway, yeah, I said when they say I'm doing a concert and then people show up and they're like, she just talked a lot. Why didn't she sing more? But then other folks kind of like know that I do lectures or whatever and teach, and so they're like, she sang too much. I wish she would have talked more. So I'm like, I just do what I want. Okay, I'll do what I want. You guys, you just have to deal with it. Hari Sunda, Cheryl Bear Slee, Nadleh Whut'en First. My name is Cheryl Bear, and I'm from the beautiful village of Nadleh Whut'en First Nation, which is located in about an hour and a half west of Prince George. And it's so good to be here. So good to be back with you guys at Metro. I can't even, it's just surreal. Like I'm sort of been living in Vancouver for almost the whole pandemic. A little, and so, we're all in on Zoom meetings or masked and all of the stuff, can't gather. And then I come up here to Kelowna and we're all like, la, 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 and hanging out. And I'm like, what's happening? Like this, but this is new for, I think, the no mask thing today. I'm like, I feel very alien-ish today, but anyway, I'm just grateful that we get together. I'm grateful. And as I said last night, this last year has just been really, really tough. And I'm having in the last couple of months, I've been having the hardest time to sort of getting back to myself. Like I had some really kind of rough news in December, some things that really shook me, and some things that had to do with my son. And he's okay now, and everything's sort of okay. But I just even all the time in my whole life, I've always sort of been able to sort of shake it off and just move on and get to the next thing. But since December, I don't, and the only thing that I can think of is the main difference is that is the unmarked graves of so many Indigenous children across Canada, that the numbers keep growing. And as I said last night, I have a hard time hearing the new numbers as they're coming out, but at the same time, I have to know them all. I have to know every single one. And there's so many, it's so hard in so many ways because, years ago at the TRCs, the elders talked about these things. The elders shared and they said, there's these things happen to us and they're still missing children. There's still, we think that over there, we know that over there, we've heard the story that there are graves over there. And then they would tell officials, at the TRC, they told everybody. And then they said, Canada, can you please help us look for these? Can you please help us to find this? and nobody helped and nobody listened. And now it's been years after the TRC, and that really hurts. And so when the original 215 from Kamloops came out, that number just, I think it shook all of us. It just rocked our foundations, kind of. And I think that most of Canada was shattered. And I think this new reality that we live in today in Canada is a tough one. And for me, my mom went to Le Jac Residential School, which is up by in between Fort Fraser and Fraser Lake, and they're going to start looking there as well. And there's stories there, and so there's hard news yet to come. There's more tough things yet to come, and so I stand up here and I'm a lot weaker than I've ever been in my whole life. I'm a lot more. I'm shaken, and I know that I'm getting better. I'm on the mend now. You guys are. This is me on a good day, but and I really am because I've been leaning into healing. I've been talking to my doctor. I've been sticking close. I've been following doctor's orders. I have a health and wellness coach who talks to me about trauma and the different parts of the brain that, the different reactions, and I'm leaning into healing because I want to build more resilience in me because I can't believe how stopped I was, how I fell down, and so. And I've always talked about stuff that's tough. For 30 years, I've talked about the residential schools in Canada, and I shared, and people would come up afterwards, and I would have all kinds of crazy comments. I remember people come up to me and saying, I've never heard of the residential schools. This is 20 years ago or whatever. I've never heard of the residential schools. Are you sure that happened? And I'd be like, holy smokes, like what do I have to do? And it wasn't until the class action suit that all of Canada found out, and this was like Canada's dirty little secret for so many years, and now it's even getting worse. So I think and I said last night, I talked about my faith at the TRCs back in whenever they were 2014, I guess. My faith was just really, really shaken. And I was like, oh God, where were you? Where were you when these babies were being brutalized? And how could this happen? How could you let this happen? And the answer after months of, and remembering the stories of the TRC, and I would be walking down the hallway in my apartment, and I would remember what an elder said from Port Alberni, and I would just like fall down and just weep, and and this was back in 2014, and I don't know that we can ever get like a solid answer for those why questions, but they're all through the Psalms. They're all in the Bible, and if you ever think about in yourself, if you ever think, oh, I'm such a bad person, or maybe God hates me because I have all of these questions, I have all of these, I have all this anger, I have all of this rage towards injustice and the bad things that have happened, and I'm so sad and I'm so doubtful. And we always think like, oh, that's almost the ultimate sin. You can't doubt. And so we force ourselves into this fake kind of faith, and it's really hurting us. And as Christians, I think we're sort of like learn to like not listen to our body. We just sort of like just get in the spirit, forget about your body, and so we're these sort of like floaty beings or something. I don't know what the heck, but And it's I think that there's been a push the last bunch of years for us to be much, much more authentic. And that's one of the things I love about Metro, and I love about my friends Graham and Natalia. They're just real people. They're like rock stars as far as I'm concerned. I'm in awe of them and their family and all their babies, how amazing their babies are. And yet they just show up and they're just like, hey, how y'all doing? They're just normal and just authentic, real people. And but that the journey for me to sort of come back to myself and to know myself and to sort of it's something that it's a strange journey, because in like I said, in Christianity we're more interested in the spirit than we are in the body. And Native way, when we talk about Indigenous way of thinking, the land is important. So when I introduce myself, I never talk about anything what Graham said or what they said last night. I never share those things. I don't talk about my education or my job, because that's not how I find my role, my place in society, in who I am. I don't find my sense of identity in what I do. I find my sense of identity in land. So I only ever introduce myself. Nadleh Whut'en. I am from Nadleh. I'm a Nadleh girl. And that connectedness to land in Indigenous way is so important. And also, it should connect us to ourselves, because in the Bible it says we're created from dust, that God formed humankind from the dust, and when we pass away, we're going to return to the dust. And I had a really good friend who passed away a few years ago, and we went to her funeral, and it was in Manitoba. She's a Métis elder. And we were so sad, and it was so cold, and and of course I've had lots of funerals, done far too many funerals. And I was standing there, and this one was tough because she was really close mentor and friend of mine, Wendy Peterson. And I was just like, it's too cold. I don't want to leave her here. I don't want this. And I was just having this real struggle. And there was another Indigenous friend named Adrian, who is Cayuga from Six Nations. And he said, the earth is holding her now. Mother Earth is holding her now. And it just gave me such a sense of peace and of rest. And I could let her rest at that point. And that was super helpful in those hard times. So the connectedness to land, we are earth. We're made of this earth, and we often try to forget that. And as Christians, we're like, just focus on heaven. Don't think about now. And it's actually one of the strategies that Christian folks use to sort of oppress the poor, is to say, don't worry about your sad situation. Just think about heaven and your next life. And, don't worry about injustice. You're going to have to suffer through it. And, then there'll be streets of gold, and there'll be all of those things on the other side. And and it's fine to think about heaven. It's fine to have your hope in heaven, yes, and all of those good things. But we forget that we're whole people. We're not just spirit. We have to think about our bodies. We have to remember that we're sitting here in, what did Richard Twist used to say? Did he used to say meat bags? I don't know. He was just gross. But anyway, we have to remember our humanity in the middle of all of this. And to me, coming into the church, having a coffee and having some little muffins or sweets or snacks, you're thinking about the humans in this area. You're thinking about the bodies, the tummies that need to be fed. You're thinking about the people who are in this neighborhood who maybe they're going to come in here, they're going to grab some stuff, and they're going to head out. I think we had a fella do that already, and I was so happy to meet him for that little while. And even though he had to leave, I think that there was, I think he left a blessing here. And you also gave him a blessing by that cup of coffee and all that sugar that he used. Sugar's a thing. So, Yeah, and I think this holistic view of, and there's like grounding exercise. So I was diagnosed with anxiety in 2011. This is another thing, and I was on medication for a couple of years, and then I was like, I just want to like try to manage it myself with exercise and diet, and then I did that for a couple of years, and then I was like, forget this diet, forget this exercise, and so anyway. But I have some more. Some things that I do to help with anxiety. And one of the things is with anxiety, you're all up in your head all the time. You're like thinking, you got the inner committee that's like arguing and having a fight in there, and then you're worried about stuff. You're thinking about the past. You're thinking about the regrets, or this, or that, or the pain, or the grief, and then you're worried about the future, and you're like, oh, what's going to happen? And what if I do this? And what if somebody that I love gets hurt? What if, your worst fears, you're thinking about okay, this worst fear happened, so it might happen here. And this is what anxiety does, is it tugs you to the past and it tugs you to the future. And yet, one of the best exercises I've ever done is it's called a grounding exercise, where you sit on the floor and you make yourself comfortable. You breathe, and then you close your eyes, and then you feel your feet on the ground, and you feel if you have no shoes on, you feel the coolness, or you feel the hardness of the floor, or the softness of the rug, and then you feel every little part of your body. You go up, you feel your shins on the back of the chair, you feel your legs on the chair, your butt in the chair, your back, and your support, and then you go all the shoulders, and you just think about your arms and your hands, and you're sitting there with your eyes closed, but you're thinking about all these parts. And then your head and the top of your head. And then at the end of this exercise, which is like seconds, you're in your body again. You're not in the past. You're not worrying about the future. You're right here, inside yourself, inside your body. And we're as Christians, we're not really good at that stuff. We're not. And so we end up, I think, hurting ourselves emotionally, physically, mentally, because we're trying so hard to be so spiritually minded all the time, and to be sort of keyed into what is God saying? Whereas God is generally just saying, just relax. I'm right here. I'm with you, and I'm never going to leave you, and I'll never forsake you. And I just saw a meme the other day about the Jesus saying, "I'll never leave you and forsake you," and it was that song, "Never Gonna Give You Up, Never Gonna Let You Down." That's kind of like Jesus. Never gonna run around and desert you. Anyway, Rick Astley, did I get that right? Anyway, funny song. But yeah, so that's a weird sermon to give. Like, hey, get back in your body. It's just such a weird thing to say, but it's something that I have just found Christians, we're not good at this stuff. We're not good at land. We're not good at land. We don't sort of like get land, like how Indigenous people think of land, and how like. So one of the things I like to talk about is for Nadleh, that our people have been on the land time immemorial. That means it's gone out of memory how long we've been on the land. And we always, no matter where we die, we are always taken back and buried on the land. And live there your whole life and so on. But my boys know that wherever I am in the world and I pass away, I have to be brought back to Nadleh. I have to be buried there with my mom now passed away 2 years ago. And I have to go there. And it's important to me. And so then I started thinking about, okay, so we've been on the land time immemorial. We always go home to be buried. So in a very real scientific sense, Nadleh, that land, is made of my ancestors. The very land. And one day, I too will be buried there, and I will be held by Mother Earth. And the earth will do its work. And I too will become part of the land. And I too will become an ancestor. And those kind of ways of talking about the land, it's not real super Christian stuff, but it's for Indigenous folks, it's really important for us. We belong to the land. We're such a part. We're so connected to the land because of that connection to our ancestors. And the land becoming And so I always think when I go back home, I always used to sort of sigh and relax, because when my mom would take us back to Nadleh, she would sigh and relax. And so that became a place where it was like we could all sort of just be, instead of being in a mostly all-white city. We came from Prince George. And so when I drive back to Nadleh, I still sort of sigh when I drive back onto the land, and I'm like, whew, I made it, home free. And I feel like I used to think I was just feeling comforted because I'd go to Nadleh and I'd know every single home, and I know who lived there, and even the homes that aren't there anymore, and who used to live there, and how they're all related to me, and how we're all cousins. And I used to think, oh yeah, that's kind of how. That's why I feel this sigh and I feel so happy. But there's more to it than that. I feel like I love the land, even looking at the river or a little mountain and all of these things. I always felt comforted by the land. And I feel like now the land is also says, and sighs with me and says, you're home. You're home. And I feel that connection, that really deep connection. So, when I talk like this, people often feel like, wow, I don't get that. I've moved here and there, and I don't really have any sense of place or any sense of home. And I hope that we can all find that connection. And maybe it's water, like maybe it's just, you don't have to have a specific place, or maybe it's a mountain or any mountain. But when you look at that, something in you just connects, and I think that's really important. There's somebody was talking about Ray Aldred was talking to, was that you guys? Anyway, Ray Aldred talks about how the way that God reveals, Ray Aldred is a Cree theologian, talks about the ways that God reveals himself to us. And in theological terminology, it's general revelation and specific revelation. And general revelation is that that humankind is without excuse, that we have to know or believe in God because of the land just tells the glory of God, and the trees themselves. And so, and then specific revelation is, of course, that God is revealed perfectly through the person and work of Jesus. And so we're really focused on specific revelation, and we often forget about that, the earth and the land, and it becomes, you see what I mean? We get very spiritual and kind of up in our heads, and rather than in our being. So I want to encourage you guys to try that grounding exercise, especially now with all the chaos going on in the world. And I can't even watch the news anymore because it's just so bonkers. Well, I stopped watching the news, I think, when the last president of the United States was doing his thing, because I was just like, this is insane. So I cut back on the news. Now I just get my news from Twitter and Facebook. So it's all good. And the last thing before I turn it back over to my beloved friend, is that I've seen some grandbabies here today, and I am just absolutely in love. And there's a name for God in that Richard Twist's Lakota Sakanju, the late Dr. Richard Twist, he talked about Takanshala, grandfather, the name for God. And I had always been told that the ideas and names or the concepts of the creator in Indigenous culture were evil, and they were false gods like Baal and Molech and all that kind of stuff. And I've got a book that talks about all this stuff, and I'm not going to get too much into that. But I don't believe that anymore. And this name grandfather, when I first heard it, I was kind of like, oh, okay, well, the Bible says, Jesus says, when you pray, pray our Father, not our grandfather. So, but the more that I for years and years, I was thinking about this concept. I think I've talked at Metro before on it, and almost everywhere I go, I talk about it, because I want you I wish that you had amazing grandparents. I wish that for you. I wish that you have a concept in your head of someone who has absolute love for you, absolute love, and who is, and this is how I think about God now. This is how I think about Creator, that, and all of the doubt and the frustration, and when injustice happens and I'm shaken and I feel like I'm gonna lose it, and God, where are you? I go back to grandfather. And I had a really good grandfather, and when my parents became grandparents, I saw them change and become amazing grandparents. And I was like, who are you? Like, whoa, you're like, good parents, but like, you really love these kids. Like, what's wrong? Why didn't you do that with me? Like, and you just see, and then you become a grandparent, and then you're like, oh, I get it, And then you have grandparents who are like, you have to stop them from like reaching for pictures, right? Oh, you have grandkids now, and then they're like this. You're like, no, I don't have time. I don't have like 2 days to look at your 185 pictures on your phone of your grandkid. I love you, but not that much. And it's this strange thing, and I hope that you have something in your life that's like that, because that is saving my faith right now. That, God is like, look at my grandchild, look at my baby, and just like showing the world, and that's how God thinks about you. That's how Creator thinks about me. That this incredible love, and it's an old love, ancient love. In Daniel 9, the word refers to Creator as the Ancient One, the one who has no beginning, has no end. This one, and we always think about Jesus. If you have a picture of Jesus in your head, it's probably wrong. He did not have blonde hair and blue eyes. I don't like white Jesus. I'm sorry, but it's so misrepresented over the years. But and even like Jesus, on his time on earth, he was only in his 30s, 33. But when I think about Jesus, he is, and sometimes it's a elder, it's a grandma sometimes, who is just so wrinkled, maybe a little bit like me, and so, gray hair, but just so full of love and so full of kindness, and so overjoyed to see us. And hanging on to this Takanshala, this picture of God, I want to leave that with you, that the next time you see a grandparent who sees their grandchild, I just want you to see God looking at you and being just overjoyed and being just so full of love, and this is my child, this is my descendant, you are mine, and I am yours, and that dedication and that love that grandparents have. And I'm grateful to be a grandma as well myself. My son Paul has a son named Legend, and he's turning 4 this May, and then I have 11 other grandkids with my stepsons, and they call me Grandma Bear. And I love it. I love these little people that so yeah, that's I just want to leave that little bit of, but in the middle also of, and the beginning of my talk, and all of the stuff of this really tough stuff that's going on in life in the world, and for me as an Indigenous grandmother to like feel all of this pain that's going on alongside of all the stuff in the world of it's really, really hard. And it's really okay to say, God, what the heck is going on? Where are you? The Psalms, again, we love the happy songs. We love Psalms. We love to sing the sort of the end of every psalm, because they're poetry. They begin with, some stuff, and then they have the middle kind of bad part, but then they always end on but God is good. And we love to just focus on that God is good part. But then there's dark psalms. There's really dark psalms. There's psalms that people read it and they go, I can't believe in God, because why would that be in the Bible? the revenge part about take my enemies. And you guys know, if you don't know that, I don't even want to go there, but it's a very, very dark psalm. And Eugene Peterson, one of the prophets at Regent, he always said that it doesn't say that God answered that prayer, but that the people were allowed, or God gave them the permission to pray it. And that's why it's there. And that's tough. That's a tough place to be when you are praying those kind of rough prayers and a revenge prayer. And yet God can take it. And the Psalms are like, God, where are you? God, when are you going to show up? What is happening? Why do our enemies prosper? All of this stuff. Why did the wicked prosper? And we can also pray those prayers. You can pray those prayers. You can say, you can have doubt in your mind without thinking that, God's going to be like, nope, you're not my child anymore. God can take it. God can take your anger. And there has to be also, with Christians, we always say, don't doubt, don't be angry, put all of those things somewhere else, because those aren't Christian. And so we take those parts of ourselves, of our humanity, and we try to separate them from ourselves. And that's not living, that's not being honest with yourself. It's not being in your body. It's not real. It's not authentic. So, let's not all get all angry at each other after. That'll suck. Please. But go do that on your own. Go get a counselor. That's even better. But feel those feelings and don't feel like condemned for having those feelings, for having real, authentic feelings. So anyway, I'm going to get to play with my friend's grandbabies later. And I'm looking forward to it. I kind of woke up today thinking, I get to see my friend's grandbabies. And they're like my little great nephews, so I can't wait. And I want to say thank you, man, up here, Graham. Thank you to Graham and Natalia and all my friends in Kelowna, the Weebs, and Henry's back there, and so many others, Jeff and Brenda, and different ones. You guys are, thank you also, Pastor Joel, for welcoming me and inviting me here. It's always a treat to come back to Metro, and I feel like you guys are a part of my family. You guys have, you're doing some of the work where I think Jesus would be like, hey, where's the rest of the church? Where's everybody else? I'm right here downtown. So I'm grateful that you guys are here. Thanks. Love ya.
Yeah, thanks, Cheryl. That's such a good reminder to get out of our heads, because we so often do that, don't we? We have a hard time with that. And so Jesus, he did so much to just remind us. The way that he healed is he touched people. He used the earth and he used dust. And then he gave us the Lord's Supper, which is just so wonderful. He said, this bread represents my body. This wine represents the blood that will be poured out for you. And it's this beautiful reminder of our humanness, the fact that we will also die, that when we lay down our lives, that we will find life, that we will be born again and resurrected. It's incredible. So what we're going to do is we're going to take communion right now. What we're going to do is we're going to invite you to come up, and we have 2 stations, one on either side. You can grab the elements and then go back to your seat, and we will take part together once Graham's done this song. So you're welcome to come on up and grab the elements, and we will enjoy that together.
I know a place, a wonderful place, where accused and condemned find mercy and grace, where the wrongs we have done and the wrongs done to us were nailed there with him, there on the cross. I know a place, a wonderful and condemned, find mercy and grace. Where the wrongs we have done and the wrongs done to us were nailed there with him, there on the cross. At the cross he died for our sin. At the cross he gave us life again. I know a place, a wonderful place, where accused and condemned find mercy and grace. The wrongs we have done and the wrongs done to us, nailed there with him, there on the cross. At the cross he died for my sin. At the cross you gave us life again. At the cross you died for our sin. At the cross you gave us life again.
Jesus took the bread and he broke it and he gave thanks. It was this beautiful attitude of gratitude, knowing what was to come and knowing that the Father would be with him regardless of the pain that was to come. He had this posture where he thanked God for everything. Let's spend a moment and just thank God. Just bring to mind things that you're so thankful for. Let's just bring some gratitude to the Father. He took the bread and he broke it and he gave thanks and he said, "Eat this in remembrance of me." And he took the wine and he said, "This is the blood of the new covenant." He said, "Drink this in remembrance of me." Amen. Well, that's real good. Hey, we have, Cheryl's got some books back there and some CDs. You're welcome to check that out. There's some really good stuff back there. Starting April 6th, by the way, we're going to be starting our meal service. So what'll happen is right now we'll all go get delicious soups and things, and we'll just like all hang out here and eat together and become a big family. Won't that be good? So that's really soon. That's in like 3 or 4 weeks or something. Not that long. Yeah, we're also doing baptisms on Easter Sunday. We're going to do it right here, so it won't be cold. So if you want to get baptized, let me know, and we're going to work that out. We're also going to be doing baptisms in the summer at the lake, but wouldn't it be cool to get baptized on Easter Sunday? Okay. And we're also doing child dedications every week in April. So if you'd like to do any of those things, please let me know. And don't forget, Celebrate Recovery is every Monday. It's at Emmanuel Church with Michael. And every single Friday at Evangel. It's a really great program. Anyways, we sure love you guys. And feel free to hang out and enjoy talking to each other with no mask. This is nice, hey? Oh, yeah. All right. Well, have a wonderful week. We'll see you later.